Scott Newby here with Bass Brings Us Together and Loving It with Scott and Cat podcast. If you follow along on the channel, you understand that we host to hundreds and hundreds of people over the last couple of years, giving demos, going to other people's house for demos, just enjoying the hobby. We purposely built this room, the Scott Newby Experience, with all JTR speakers and subwoofers to have that ultimate playback capability, and we like sharing that experience with other people. So we just recently had some people over the last couple of weeks, and I just want to go over a few quick things on key points that were brought up from guests that came in our home. And we're going to specifically be talking about bass and how important it is. And I'm not going to drag this out too long, just a few minutes. If you're familiar with our videos, I do no editing, just come on with my raw thoughts. Sometimes I mess that up, but that's okay. That's why you guys are here, right? So anyway, had some people over, wanted to experience not only a Dolby Atmos home theater, and we watched a few DTS-X movies as well. They wanted to experience what it was like to have a lot of subwoofers in a room and experience high SPL levels and low hertz levels. In this room, we're getting around 7 or 8 hertz with good output capability. And so I wrote down a few key points, and we did a few small tests, nothing too scientific, but I just want to give you everybody's thoughts because we do get these questions a lot. And if you follow along through any of our, past videos, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So one of the biggest things that I got asked, or that I was told, was how can you have so many subwoofers in the room? We thought it was going to be extremely boomy. Now our room is somewhat small, 14 by 16 feet. There's 18-inch subwoofers in this room. A lot of people think, well, that's going to be overbearing. You're not going to hear any other speakers. That's going to be super boomy. This doesn't make any sense. Then they came and they experienced it. Everything's nice and tight and clean. And so during demo clips, music or movies, we would all have little conversations with each other. And this is very important for everybody that's into this hobby at all, is it doesn't matter if you have one 10-inch subwoofer or 30 18-inch subwoofers. It's all in the tuning. Obviously, everything has to be working together regardless of how many subwoofers you have. You can have one 10-inch subwoofer in a room that sounds very sloppy and boomy, or you could be in a room like this with 18-18s and everything is super tight and precise. And that all just goes into where you place the subwoofer, what kind of subwoofer you're using, and also how it's integrated into the system, like between the subwoofer and the mains. And that's where tuning comes into play. I understand that a lot of people get into the sub crawl, which is, in my opinion, in my experience, and everybody else that I deal with in this hobby or in the industry, it's a very terrible way to properly place your subwoofer. I hear that a lot. I get asked a lot of questions on subwoofers constantly. Basically, the sub crawl is only telling you where a peak is. So, they claim, well, if your subwoofer's small enough, you could set it in your seat, walk around the room, wherever it's the loudest, that's where you should place it. That's how most of the sub crawl videos go. But that's only showing you a peak in the room, and a peak doesn't really do you a lot of good because you're going to be bringing the peaks down anyway to properly tune, because nobody wants to listen to a one-hit wonder, and it's just constantly droning that hertz out, that tone. So, I mean, you could literally, there's 100 videos online to learn how to use it. If you're getting serious about this hobby, you have to get into a program, and the most popular one is REW, R-E-W. It's free. You can make a small donation to the guy, that runs it and designs it, but regardless, it's free. You can buy a U-mic for like $100, a U-mic 1, and most everybody's got a laptop around, and the program, I mean, I run it on a 6-year-old laptop right now, and that's the only thing I keep that one laptop for, is for running REW. So, I mean, you're in the game as long as you have an old laptop laying around for like $100. And it's unbelievable value. I mean, unbelievable. One of the most important pieces of information you can have about your theater. And then you can move the sub around to certain parts in your room, and you run sweeps, and you see how the subwoofer reacts. And that's certainly not about the most peakiness, if that's even a word. It'll show you where the nulls are at, And a lot of the nulls can't be fixed with EQ. You'd force a bunch of EQ to make sometimes that even worse. So you want the best natural response that you can. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people have limitations in their room to where, like, oh, the sub looked best according to the root graph, but it's in a terrible location or a tripping hazard, or my wife hates it, or whatever. So, I mean, you definitely want to find the best possible place from the options that you have. And it's not, like I said, it's not about the peaks. At least it's not for me. It's about what has the least amount of nulls. Because you'll see the graph and it'll go up and down. Well, some graphs go way down, and maybe even a couple times. And you want to stay away from those areas. If you can get it just somewhat kind of wavy, I mean, then you can start messing with a little bit of EQ, and that's where like a mini DSP and stuff like that comes in. But at least start off, even if you're just going to do your automatic room correction or whatever, give the sub its best fighting chance of doing a good job in your room by placing it in a decent location, or the most decent location that you can provide for it. So that was a big thing that we had a conversation about in this room. Everybody thinks, oh, 1818s, it's going to seem boomy, it's going to seem sloppy. Oh, you have butt kickers in your seats. Oh, that's going to be gimmicky. It's amazing. Like I said, if you follow on this channel at all, is we host multiple get-togethers and one huge get-together every year. And half of the people are friends or acquaintances or people that have been here before, and they're just coming over to hang out with everybody. And the other half are new people that want to check out the room. And there's always a good handful of people that want to come to just, I don't know, concrete their idea of like, that's stupid and I'm going to hate it. And then literally when they come in and experience it, they understand the importance of having a properly tuned system. And that's what this video is basically about, just because I had like 20 people in the last couple of weeks come over here, and I've noticed in this a lot, and a lot of these were newer guys, is they didn't understand that tuning was so important and what goes into it. I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people think, well, I'll just put the speakers wherever they can go, and that's why I have automatic calibration. The automatic calibration can fail miserably, but it isn't necessarily the automatic calibration's fault. I mean, if you give it a terrible start to begin with, it's going to just be adding and taking away all kinds of EQ. And if you understand how the EQ works, especially on the lower end, adding 2 or 3 dB is just tearing through your excursion, using up all your amp power, and the sub could just be fighting against itself. And the good thing about RU as well, too, is regardless if you're using 1, 2, 4, 12, 15 subwoofers, is you can see how the subs and the mains interact. And what I've noticed a lot on automatic calibration is that you see, even after you get your subs looking good, is when it comes to integrating it with the mains, is there's a huge dip or null there because the automatic calibration has messed that up. And you can go through and fix that through the time alignment, through the distance in your receiver preamp, but you wouldn't know if you're making positive or negative changes without the program like RU. So, and as you make those distance changes, and you can see that goes away, flattens out, gets better, gets worse, but you can custom tune your system fairly simply and not very much money. And as you start to tighten everything up, it really changes your experience in your room. So I got that a lot. So about the boominess, we went through that, about how, and this video isn't about how to do time alignment and EQ and all that. There's already a plenty of videos out there, like Home Theater Gurus and a couple other guys out there that do absolutely great videos on that. Now, if you're just, some people are like, hey, I don't care, or I care, but I don't care to learn how to do it. There's great remote calibrators out there too that can log into your computer, give you a step-by-step, hey, move your sub here, move your sub there, and they can work you through it. And then even a step beyond that, some guys actually, fly out to your house and set it up. Obviously, there's costs endured with all of that stuff, but I was just like, you can get yourself started for practically nothing and learn a couple of things that's invaluable. But once again, if you don't care, you can hire somebody, for a few $100 or whatever. They can do it, get you dialed in, or you can even have somebody coming home, which would obviously be significantly more. Another thing that we noticed too is, so we watched a couple movie clips And then on one movie clip, I just completely shut all the subwoofers off. And we watched the movie clip, and everybody agreed that that sucked. So the bass is extremely important. In my personal opinion, and this video isn't telling you what to enjoy, and this is just my opinion and the general consensus of everybody that's been over here, especially as of recently, is we all agreed, because we shut a couple speakers off during demos just to test and do stuff, because that's what part of this hobby is about. So you can watch a movie. You can watch a whole movie without bass. I wouldn't enjoy it, but I could watch it and I can understand what's going on. What we did realize, which a lot of people would assume, is the one speaker that you can't watch a movie if it's not on would be your center channel. So we ran a movie clip with no subs. We all agreed that that kind of sucks. We ran the same movie clips with the subs on and the center channel off. That's unwatchable. The center channel, to me, is the absolute most important speaker in your setup. Properly placing, properly treating your room to support your center channel. Even in my own space, when I first did this room, and I made a lot of mistakes because I did everything myself to set up and everything, is I was one of the guys, and I know this is fairly common, that after I did my calibration, I would have to bump the center channel up 1, 2, 3 dB, but it always didn't seem 100% correct. And then I treated my back wall. Well, I treated the whole room, but at first I didn't treat the back wall at all. And then now there's 6 inches of safe and sound insulation on this back wall. And as soon as I did that and run the auto calibration, well, I do my own manual calibration, but I always run auto calibration as well too, because I'd like to compare the results from what I do on my own to what, well, now what Anthem thinks should be done. But even after auto calibration, you didn't have to touch the center channel control at all. You're not bumping it up, because there's no reverberation off that back wall now that it's treated, and that really cleans up not only all the sound for surrounding that, but certainly on the center channel. So I found myself not wanting to bump up the center channel anymore. So to us and everybody here, because we did another test where we just shut off like the side surrounds. You could tell that they weren't on, but it wasn't detrimental. Then we did it without the back surrounds. And of course it felt like you were missing a little something, but still you could enjoy the movie great. We did it with shutting the front Atmos off, did it with shutting the rear Atmos off, did it with shutting off the left front, did it with shutting off the right front, and all of it still seemed like you could pretty much do it okay and not miss out on a ton. Center channel, 100% you wouldn't want to watch a movie at all, and the subwoofers. So definitely, like I said, the most two important parts of the home theater are making sure that they're set up correctly. Another thing I'm going to touch on real quick is having the butt kickers in the seats. I get asked this question every other week. So what's funny is, for the people that come over here and don't know that I have butt kickers in the seats, or even if they do, we'll watch a couple movie clips and they're like, okay, yeah, that was cool. That was, that was a lot of fun. Now you got butt kickers in these seats, or you don't, or were they on, or were they off? And that is the absolute perfect response that anybody, such as myself or anybody else that has butt kickers set up, because if it's so convincing that people don't know, or they're asking questions like that, that means you have them dialed in perfectly. What I want to add onto this is that if you're going to do the butt kickers and you're just going to wire them off a subwoofer, you'll still get the impact from the butt kickers for sure, and you'll get the shaking, to whatever level you want, controlled by that amplifier that you're pushing them with. But the problem is it's sharing the same signal as the subwoofer, and they're going to be out of alignment, no doubt. And that's where mini DSP and that comes into play, because then you can adjust all the distance settings, and that'll calibrate everything together. I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole 2-hour video in itself. But not only is it important to have control over your subwoofer's distance control, which is basically a timing control, is it's detrimental for the butt kickers. because you need the butt kickers to hit and feel that they're just extensions of the subwoofers. And that's super important. So a lot of people that have experienced transducers and don't like them, more than likely it's because they've experienced them in a setup where they're not properly set up. I've had supposedly some of the most audiophile people in this room, and they'll watch a movie clip in it and they'll be like, yeah, see, you don't need butt kickers, man. This was amazing. I'd be like, oh, well, they were on. So it's all in the setup, like a lot of stuff in this hobby. So, all right, guys, I just wanted to hop on here and just to share my thoughts. Just had everything is fresh in my mind because over the last 2 weeks we've had people, like 20 people over here. So I just want to share my thoughts with you guys. A lot of questions that I get asked. Like always, if you guys are liking and subscribing to videos or Patreons of ours, we appreciate it. Always working on new content as time allows. Bass brings us together. Scott Newbie, Living It with Scott and Cat podcast. So we're certainly just trying to have a good time with everybody. I share on our Facebook groups, like when we're holding more events, and I've just been sharing a bunch of car audio stuff. I went to some car audio events. I get asked a lot what Bass Brings Us Together even means, and pretty much I've been into home audio, car audio, DJ audio my whole life, and what I've noticed over the years is that it's the bass bringing people together. So our events and our motto and our company that Kat and I are trying to push is Bass Brings Us Together. So just trying to have a lot of fun with everybody, enjoy ourselves. Hope you enjoy your day. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support. We love you guys. Have a good day.